Hey everybody, welcome to today's Quran reading. If you've never read the Quran, well, you're in for a treat. Women, part 3. Going to start somewhere around verse 84 of Sura 4. I'm actually going to back up a little bit and just do verse 82, just to kind of give us a little bit of a little push forward. This is part 3 of Sura 4 called Women. And so all you women out there, I'm sure you really have read this one and it's been interesting to you. It certainly has a lot of interesting things in this surah. Like all the surahs before it, they all are really, really interesting, and they all definitely deal with punishment of unbelievers. And so if you doubt the Quran, verse 82 starts like this. And I'm your host, Beau, and never grew up with religious texts in my home, and so wasn't familiar with them. So I always find that going to the source is the best. Just read the sources of who you're talking about, the country you're talking about, and you will get an idea of why they do what they do. Because you're probably assuming that they're thinking like you, but they're not if they are involved in a kind of worldview, a specific religious worldview or secular worldview. They're not thinking the way you're thinking. They're thinking much different. And the Quran already in 1, 2, and 3 is way interesting compared to what I grew up with in Southern California with very secular, progressive humanism. So 82 says, will they not ponder on the Quran? If it has been from anyone other than Allah, they would have found much discrepancy within it. So the idea is that the Quran is free from error, which is really an interesting statement because, there's a lot to talk about when you read the Quran, right? A lot of issues, almost issues with almost every verse. That it's quite an interesting, a lot of discrepancy, you could say. But, that's why you have the hadiths, is to try to explain everything that we're reading. And if any news, whether of safety or fear, come to them, they spread it all over. Yet if they had referred it to the messenger and to those who are in authority, those among them who are able to think out the matter would have known it. If it had not been for the grace of Allah upon you and his mercy, you would have followed Satan except for a few. Interesting. Again, it always feels like every verse is kind of a discrepancy, right? It's almost like we need a commentary for every verse, because it's very difficult to kind of understand exactly what is being talked about. If you doubt the messenger, then Satan would move you away. If you're doubting the messenger of Allah, but to save a few, except for a few, it's just, you kind of go, whoa. So fight in the way of Allah. You are not burdened except with yourself, and urge the believers on. So in one of the hadiths, it's reported as saying that there are immense rewards in store for those who wage jihad, right? Holy war. And that Allah has a incredible reward for such a person. So, war is certainly cool. In Islam, you go for it. And we've read many passages about that. It's okay to be with an unbeliever as long as that unbeliever, as long as you use that unbeliever for Islam's purpose, kind of idea. So, perhaps Allah will restrain the might of those who disbelieve. Allah is stronger in might and stronger in inflicting punishment. Okay. So let's move on. Whoever intervenes in a good cause will have the reward of it, and whoever intervenes in an evil cause will bear the consequences of it. Allah oversees all things. When you are greeted with a greeting, extend a better greeting or return the same one. Indeed, Allah takes stock of all things. Hey man, be nice when you're greeted. Allah, there is no God except Him. He gathers you all on a day of resurrection, of which there is no doubt. Who is more trustworthy in discourse than Allah? So like the Torah, like the Psalms of the Hebrew Bible, like the prophets, there's this idea of resurrection, very much like, of course, the New Testament writings as well. What ails you that you have become two parties regarding the hypocrites when Allah sent them back because of what they earned? Do you seek to guide him whom Allah has led astray? He who Allah leads astray, for him you cannot find the way. They wish. So he whom Allah leads astray, for him you cannot find a way. Again, interesting, right? Allah leads astray. So he will lead you astray. That's kind of interesting, because we just got done reading Allah's the only God, and he gathers you on the day of resurrection. We're all accountable to him. What ails you that you have become two parties regarding the hypocrites when Allah sent them back because of what they earned? Do you seek? Okay. He whom Allah leads astray, for him you cannot find a way. So again, interesting, right? What an interesting sentence. Whom Allah leads astray, for him you cannot find a way. So there's no way for the one Allah leads astray. So in the Quran, obviously, Allah not only will save some, but he also will lead you astray, but he's also all merciful. I mean, all of that. So he's all mercy, but he'll lead you astray if he wants to. If you don't, obey him, he'll lead you astray. And then also he can have mercy on you. They wish that you would disbelieve, even as they disbelieve, that you may be on the same level. So do not choose friends from them until they migrate in the way of Allah. So no friends. If you are in Islam, no friends that are unbelievers. And it's laid that out pretty crystal clear. So you would imagine an Islamic community would be all Islamic people, not much diversity. So if you're for diversity, then you're probably not going to be Islamic, because Islam is definitely no diversity. There's no room to be around unbelievers and be friendly unless you're going to use them to gain security, it said. Then you can use them for the gaining of Islam, and Islam's wanting to the idea of taking over more land, more places, the entire world, but no friends. So I would imagine if you're on a college campus and you are for diversity, then you're probably not for Islam, So do not choose friends from them until they migrate in the way of Allah. If they turn back, then take them and kill them wherever you find them, and choose no friend or helper from among them. Okay. Interesting. So you got a disbeliever, you got a friend, and if they turn back from Allah, so maybe they are with Allah, then they go away from Allah, it says you should kill them. So if this is your worldview and you believe it's okay to that you're going to kill people in the name of Allah, and whether they were Islam and now no longer Islam, that you have to find them and, don't be around their friends. You got to kill that dude, that lady, because then it leaves no room for skepticism. You have no room for critical thinking at this point. So Islam is really a non-critical, you can't be a critical thinker and listen and be a part of Islam. You have to stay within the bounds. So instead of, hey, test it, let's look into it. And if it's not true, then let's throw it out. It's there, if you're Muslim, then there ain't no room, it sounds like, to do that. Because if you become critical in your thinking and you become skeptical of what you currently believe, the ramifications of that is to be killed by your fellow Muslims. So, man, that's a gnarly verse, man. I want to highlight that one because it's just woo-wee. That one's, man, unbelievable. So it's the death penalty for apostasy for sure, except those who seek refuge with a people whom you have a covenant, or come to you because their hearts forbid them to make war on you or make war on their own people. If Allah had willed, he could have given them power over you, so that assuredly they would have fought you. So if they remain aloof from you and do not wage war against you and offer you peace, Allah allows you no way against them. So it sounds like in Islam too, is if Muslims are being conquered by other people, then it is the will of Allah. Allah surely could have willed it, right? Where Allah surely could have willed your defeat. So if you are in an Islamic area and you are defeated by, quote, the enemy, then it sounds like then Allah certainly has willed that, in your life to be defeated. Though we already read the surah that says you have to win back that land that was taken from you at all cost, and that you will be purified in your war against the unbeliever. You will find others who want security from you and security from their own people as often as they are returned to hostility. Again, interesting. They are plunged into it. If they do not keep aloof from you or offer you peace or hold off their hands, then take them and kill them wherever you find them. Against such people we have given you clear justification. Okay. So again, this idea of, kill these people if they do such and such type of thing. And it says, it is not for a believer to kill a believer except by mistake. He who has killed a believer by mistake must set free a believing slave and pay the blood money to the family of the person who is killed, unless they remit it as a charity. If he is from a people who are hostile to you, and he is a believer, then he is to be set free a believing slave. And if he comes from a people whom you have a covenant, then the blood money must be paid to his people, and a believing slave must be set free. And whoever does not have the means must fast for 2 consecutive months, a penance from Allah. Allah is the knower, the wise. So I'm curious if the slaves being spoken of here, what kind of slavery that is. Is it the idea of, Judaism and what's called a slave or a bond servant in the Torah? Or is it a different kind of slavery? Sometimes people will remark about biblical slavery. The Bible talks about slaves, but you have to look into it more than that. It's much more nuanced, and it's a lot different than what you're thinking about slavery, like the African slave trade. But I'm wondering about because we don't really get what kind of slavery are we talking about. Are we talking about people that run into poverty and that need to work for other people? And that was what was considered a slave. You're working for people. You go to a job, that kind of thing. You have to pay off a debt. And so you're working for a family. You are a slave to the family because of that debt that you owe. I'm not sure if this is laid out anywhere. I'm sure there's some maybe hadith that talks about this. So it says, whoever kills a believer deliberately, his reward is Gehenna forever. Allah is angry with him and has cursed him and prepared for him an awful doom. So that's interesting because a lot of Muslim warfare goes on. There's, of course, 2 main sects of Islam. There's probably many more, but there's 2 main ones that people kind of fall into, right? And Sunni and Shiite, and they have waged war over many years. I'm sure a lot of people have been killed, one to another, and so if that's the case, then Allah is angry with them, and He has cursed them and prepared for them an awful doom. So it's kind of interesting that whoever kills a believer deliberately, you're going to hell forever. So if you are a Muslim and you've killed another Muslim, if they're a Muslim and they believe in Allah and His messenger, then you are going to hell. That warfare is not considered the warfare to enter into paradise. It's not like a killing of the unbeliever, the one that's moving you away from Allah that you are to kill. But it is instead the one that you're killing a brother or a sister and in the faith. And you know what? You're going to hell. So that's interesting. That means probably half of the Muslim people that have been waging war against the other ones over the Islamic Empire, what is it, 1,400 years of it, they're all in hell, right? Because they've killed one another through their civil war, so to speak, that still goes on today, right? So, man, that's a mind blower as well, right? Meaning a lot of the Muslims are in hell simply because they've killed other Muslims. So that's interesting. O you who believe, when you go forth to fight in the way of Allah, be careful to make distinctions, and do not say one who offers you to one who offers you peace. You are not a believer seeking the profits of this life. With Allah are abundant spoils. You were even like this before, but Allah has since been gracious to you. Therefore, take care to make distinctions. Allah is always informed of what you do. So it sounds like, hey, there is some discernment here for the non-believer, right? So you get that kind of thing. Hey, you weren't once believers, so they aren't believers. So hey, kind of, Allah's given you grace, so be gracious to them. Boy, like that passage. That's a little better than the one we read earlier on. It says, those are the believers who sit still. Others than those who have an injury are not equal with those who wage jihad in the way of Allah with their wealth and lives. Allah has conferred on those who wage jihad with their wealth and lives a rank above the sedentary. Allah has promised good to each, but He has bestowed on those who wage jihad a great reward above that than the lazy, the one who doesn't. So it makes sense that in an Islamic culture, a lot of their wealth would go towards waging jihad. That if they were to get money, that money would be used to wage jihad. That would be the thing to do. Why? Because Allah promises great reward if you wage jihad and you go to war for the Islamic cause, and dominate the world, convert the unbeliever, either through nice conversion or the sword, and through war. And so this has been repeated, but now we get a kind of clear idea here. Jihad plus get money, use it for jihad. How can I use it for jihad? If people die in jihad, it's assured going. We saw that you're definitely going to be in that garden with rivers that it talked about. So, it makes sense. Hey, I want my kid to go to heaven. Jihad. He's going to wage jihad. What am I going to do with my money? I'm going to build something that's going to be for jihad. That's going to be the most important thing, because that's how you get into heaven. I mean, you can see the pull. I want to get to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. So I got to kind of do these things. I got to make sure I'm on the right track, or else all-seeing Allah is going to put you in impending doom. We've read that before. So degrees of rank from Him and forgiveness and mercy. Allah is always merciful, forgiving to those who wage jihad. Indeed, for those whom the angels take while they wrong themselves, they will ask, in what were you engaged? They will say, we were oppressed in the land. They will say, wasn't Allah's earth spacious enough that you could have migrated within it? As for such people, their dwelling will be Gehenna, an evil destination. So that Gehenna, that evil destination, comes up once again. Except for the weak men and the women and the children who are unable to devise a plan and are not shown a way. As for such people, it may be that Allah will forgive them. Allah is always merciful, forgiving, but maybe He will forgive them, but He is all merciful. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of weird. The Quran has no discrepancies, it says. Yeah, it's very interesting that it has that statement, and then it goes into all this interesting kind of discrepancy. He's always merciful, but it may be that Allah will forgive him. Whoever immigrates for the sake of Allah will find much refuge and abundance in the earth, and whoever forsakes his home, a refugee for Allah and His Messenger, and death overtakes him, his reward is then obligatory upon Allah. Allah is always merciful. So it sounds like if you move to a new land and you want to bring Islam to that land, and then that's a plus. And you die, then man, you get a reward. Allah will reward you to move out, to spread Islam. And when you travel in the land, it is no sin for you to shorten prayer if you fear that those who disbelieve may attack you. In truth, the unbelievers are an open enemy to you. Okay, so if you're traveling to a new land and you end up migrating to another country, and those people, your neighbors, aren't believers, then they are an open enemy to you. So that's interesting, right? So you have someone who's Muslim that moves by you. They travel to another land. It is no, it's okay if you, if, as a Muslim, just kind of shorten your prayer, keep things kind of to a minimal. You might not be able to do all the ceremonies because you're in transition, you're moving to another place, but, fear those who disbelieve because they may attack you, right? That's the idea, is you're fearing those who might attack you. The unbelievers are an open enemy to you. Beware of them. And when you are among them and arrange prayer for them, let only a party of them stand with you and let them take their weapons. Then, when they have performed their prostrations, let them fall to the rear and let another party come forward that has not prayed, and let them pray with you, and let them take their precautions and their weapons. Those who disbelieve long for you to neglect your arms and your baggage, so that they may attack you once and for all. It is no sin for you to lay aside your weapons if rain impedes you or you are sick. So maybe this is, hey, you're in war and you're going to another land, and there's other people around, unbelievers. Then be very aware and make sure that you guys pray kind of stagnant your prayer, a certain amount of people, different times, that kind of thing, so that you can be ready to fight. And it says, indeed, Allah is preparing a shameful punishment for the unbelievers. He's kind of conjuring it up, right? He's kind of, it's like, stirring the pot, ready to punish the unbelievers. When you have concluded the prayer, remember Allah standing, sitting, and reclining. And so Allah standing, sitting, and reclining. Oh, it's just when you're kicking back or whatever you're doing. And when you are in safety, observe proper prayer. Prayer at fixed times has been commanded for the believers. Do not relent in pursuit of the enemy. If you are suffering, indeed, they are suffering even as you are suffering. And you hope from Allah what they cannot hope for. Allah is ever the knower, the wise. So certainly what moves the Muslim is the idea of the rewards of paradise and how can you get to heaven. So it is a reward-based religion, and it's one that gives a surety of, quote, heaven if you perform war, if you die in jihad, if you make sure you do these particular things, then and for the cause of Islam, then you're good to go. But if if you're killing another believer, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, if you're being skeptical of Muhammad and Allah, and there's any criticism or critique, then you are in danger of being killed yourself, right? So again, pretty interesting. Indeed, we reveal to you the book with the truth, so that you may judge between people by what Allah shows you. And do not advocate for the treacherous, and seek forgiveness from Allah. Indeed, Allah is always forgiving, merciful. And do not advocate for those who deceive themselves. Indeed, Allah does not love the one who is treacherous and sinful. They try to hide from men and do not try to hide from Allah. He is with them when by night they have discussions that are displeasing to Him. Allah always encompasses what they do. Look, you are the ones who pleaded for them in the life of this world. But who will plead for them with Allah on the day of resurrection, or who will be their defender then? Yet whoever does evil or wrongs his own soul, then ask pardon of Allah, will find Allah forgiving and merciful. So that's great. We're glad for that, right? Whoever does evil or wrong for their soul, man, we can ask for forgiveness and we'll get it, I hope. Whoever commits sin commits it only against himself. Allah is ever the knower, the wise. And whoever commits an offense or sin and then throws it on the innocent has burdened himself with falsehood and a flagrant crime. If it had not been for the favor of Allah upon you and His mercy, a group of them had resolved to mislead you. But they will mislead only themselves, and they will not hurt you at all. Allah reveals the book and wisdom to you and teaches you what you did not know. The favor of Allah toward you has been infinite. There is no good in most of their secret discussions except for the one who calls for almsgiving and kindness and peacemaking among the people. Whoever does that, seeking the good pleasure of Allah, we will grant him great reward. And whoever opposes the messenger after the guidance has been shown to him and follows a way other than that of the believer will establish him, or we establish for him what he himself has turned toward and expose him to hell or Gehenna, an evil destination. So, you know what? You're going to hell if you don't listen to the messenger, and there's a lot of reward for those who trust the messenger. Indeed, Allah does not forgive ascribing partners to him. He forgives everything except that those whom he wills. So don't ascribe partners to Allah. That is used too in the Quran quite a bit, not ascribing a partner to him. Don't put anybody on his level. I take it that's what that means. Whoever ascribes partners to Allah has wandered far astray. They invoke instead of him only females. They pray to no one else but Satan, a rebel. That's kind of an interesting line, right? They invoke instead of him only females. That's interesting. Whom Allah cursed, and he said, surely I will take an appointed shares of your slaves, and surely I will lead them astray, and surely I will arouse desires in them, and surely I will command them, and they will cut the cattle's ears, and surely I will command them, and they will change Allah's creation. Whoever chooses Satan for a patron instead of Allah is indeed a loser, and his loss is clear. Okay, don't buy into temptation, and temptation is not listening to Allah and the messenger. He promises things to them and stirs up desires in them, and Satan makes promises only to fool them. For such people, their dwelling place will be Gehenna, or hell, and they will find no refuge from it. But as for those who believe and do good works, we will bring them into gardens under which rivers flow. That is popular. That is kind of what heaven's like, I guess. Gardens with which rivers flow, in which they will remain forever. It is a promise from Allah in truth, and who can be more truthful in speech than Allah? Interesting. Who can be more truthful in speech than Allah? ? Again, can you critically think about that? Can you have any kind of skepticism in the Quran? The answer is no. If you do have any skepticism or any kind of critical thinking capabilities to maybe go, is this really true? How many discrepancies have we found in this book already? Then you are in danger of being killed if you're a Muslim. And if you already are an unbeliever, you're definitely in danger of having war against you. So it will not be in accord with your desires, nor the desires of the people of the book. He who does wrong have the recompense of it and will not find any protecting friend or helper against Allah. So again, judgment, 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 and more judgment. And whoever does good works, whether male or female, and is a believer, will enter paradise, and they will not be wronged even as much as the groove in a date stone. Okay. Who is better? Let's see. Who is better in religion than he who submits to Allah while doing good and follows the tradition of Abraham the Hanif? Allah chose Abraham for friend. Okay, so we get that from the Hebrew Bible. Abraham is a friend of God. So it seems like, again, it draws at times from the Jewish sources, but it does have some changes to it. Abraham submitting to Allah, this kind of idea. By the way, in verse 124, there's a note that paradise is promised to true believers, both male and female, but why it is filled with virgins, the women of paradise for men. In Sura, let's see, in this 44 verse 54, Surah 44 verse 54, it is not described for women. Okay. So to Allah belong whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. Allah always encompasses all things. They ask you about women. Say Allah gives you a decree about them and the book which has been recited to you concerning female orphans and those to whom you do not give what is ordained for them, though you desire to marry them, and the weak among children, and that you should deal justly with orphans. Whatever good you do, indeed Allah is always aware of it. If a woman fears ill treatment from her husband or desertion, it is no sin for either of them if they make terms of peace between themselves. So it sounds like there is a divorce that can happen here in this section. So, and it, let's see, it says peace is better, but greed has been made present in people's minds. If you do good and avoid evil, indeed Allah is always informed of what you do. Okay, so so it sounds like divorce is okay in Islam if there is an agreement between them. Of course, if there's no agreement, we've already read that there's a couple ways you can discipline your wife. The last one, you could strike her. If you will not be able to deal equally between wives, however much you want to, because you can have 4 wives and then have wives with those like concubines that you win in war. But do not turn away altogether and leave her in suspense. If you do good and avoid evil, indeed Allah is always forgiving and merciful. But if they separate, Allah will compensate each of them out of His abundance. Allah is always all-embracing, all-knowing. To Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and we charged those who received the book before you and you that you keep your duty towards Allah. And if you disbelieve, indeed to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and Allah is always absolute, the owner of praise. To Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and Allah is sufficient as defender. If He wills, He can remove you, O people, and bring others. Allah is able to do that. Whoever desires the reward of this world and the hereafter is with Allah. Allah is always the hearer and the seer. Okay, we're going to end there at 134. So that was a good reading today. We went from Surah 484 to Surah 134. A lot of good stuff there, man. Wowee. Man, there's some biggies in that reading for sure. There's always a biggie in these readings. I hope you guys are kind of understanding maybe a little more of just this culture, this worldview. If you're reading this and you believe this, what would your world look like? What would you be thinking about your neighbors, about your family, about men, about women, about unbelievers, about, moving to another location? What would be the goal? What would be your goal? What is the whole purpose? How would you view children? How would you view heaven? How to get into heaven? I mean, these are all pretty important topics. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm certainly enjoying my reading of it. So you guys take care, okay? Bye-bye.